Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome back to Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Racing on SMB. JR Gregory here with you on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, my partner, Charles Bichelle, and tonight's producer, Marty Czekala. And as season 2025, season 3 rolls on, week 4 takes us to Summit Point Raceway, located just 2 hours outside the DC Beltway in Virginia. Summit Point opened way back in 1969. Past host to IMSA, Can-Am, and Trans Am professional racing, current host to SCCA's Atlantic Championship. Tonight's configuration, 2 miles, 10 corners, and our current lap record is a 104.452, set last year actually by 2024 Formula Atlantic champion Matthew Butson. So, Charles, this week's extremely difficult Summit Point is going to make even the tight confines of Mid-Ohio from last week look like a cakewalk. So, what are your keys to success in tonight's race?
Yeah, JR, it's going to be a good race, but yeah, this Summit Point track is very tight. Just covered the Weekend Warriors here in the Formula Ford, so step up from that platform onto these. You know, obviously faster car, a lot more downforce actually. So it's going to be tough. You've got to worry about certain things here. Obviously, you've got a pretty heavy braking zone going down to turn one. You'll get a good draft down the straightaway. So that'll be where you try and be late on the brakes and work your way through the corner and making passes. But you need to get that done before you get up to turn three. Very, very sharp uphill left-hander, gravel on the outside that will catch some people out. And then you get down to that turn five, that downhill braking zone. Very, very difficult to get the car stopped. Twisting and turning through 6, 7, 8, and then out to 9 for that back straight, and then around for that very fast turn 10. It's going to make for some really exciting racing. Obviously, newcomer to the F4s for this series, so I'm looking forward to calling the action tonight.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one, Charles. And if I could just add a couple of points to your thoughtful analysis there. To me, Summit Point is highlighted by a couple things, and these cars particularly. One is going to be patience. You mentioned that kind of tight and twisty 5, 6 set of corners there about halfway through the lap. That requires a ton of patience, waiting to get on the throttle. You're rolling across that apex, rolling, and you want to get on the throttle quickly, but if you get on it too soon, these cars will loop on you, and we're probably going to see that happen a time or two here tonight. And another thing that stands out to me is the two corners on the track map, if you're holding it in front of you, that look the easiest are probably 9 and 10. And to me, I have way too many laps out here. I'm a little bitter about it, but 9 and 10 are probably the most difficult, and they're going to require incredible amount of precision by these F4 drivers. You got to hit it just right, not over slow, carry as much speed as possible across the apex. On that 9-10 straight, we could see some contested entries into turn 10. And of course, we're going to see contested entries on every lap into turn 1 coming off of that pit straight. So got to get a great run out of turn 10. And it can be very challenging to hit that corner just right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As we'll pick up the point standings here, Josh Leslie leading with 61 points. Aaron Von Wagner second with 52. Greg Meyer in third, 47. Lloyd Conway in P4, 44 points. Adam Duvall in fifth with 39. Still really tight in the board. Obviously, we're only in week 4, so every point's going to matter here for tonight's race.
Yeah, they absolutely will. And you see Leslie on top there, and you'll remember his sad tale from Mid-Ohio last week. Set the pole, drove away pretty effectively, and eventually kind of got reeled in at the end. And a little self-spin at Mid-Ohio put Leslie out of winning 3 in a row. But he's still looking pretty good up top there with 61 points, and there are a couple of drops yet. So pretty early to be counting chickens, but Leslie always at the pointy end of the field. He's at the pointy end of practice right now with about 4.5 minutes remaining. You see him there with a 109.052. He's got Conway sniffing around behind, a tenth or so off. As always, Van Wagner typically up there as well. We've got Swanbeck and Duvall hanging around there as well. But Leslie is going to be the favorite in this one, as he has been in each of the prior 3 sessions. So we'll get that qualifying underway here in just a second. But yeah, Leslie, Charles, I'm not sure if you caught the show, but Leslie definitely kicking himself over what happened in Mid-Ohio, and you could kind of feel it when he came in to talk to us after the race. He was not feeling real chatty.
No, I can imagine. Mid-Ohio is one of those tracks that just has eluded me. I just still can't get the feel for that track. So I absolutely would commiserate with Leslie. There's just so many corners there, especially once you get past China Beach there, turn 4. Basically that middle sector there at Mid-Ohio is probably one of the toughest sectors to drive that I think I've ever had to deal with in iRacing.
Yeah, for sure. Very deceptive. A lot of stuff, important stuff like apexes and corner exits and braking zones, hidden over rises and around bends. So diabolical design. Another one that looks pretty straightforward on paper, but to squeeze out those last couple of tenths, very, very tough to gain expertise. And yep, there we go, folks. That is wheels touching on these F4 cars, and a pretty typical result there. But let's take a little spin, or we're with Vase there, and take a look at Josh Leslie here as this practice session winds down. And folks, if you have not joined us before, what we're going to do next here is an open qualifying session of 15 minutes. So we are not going to do the solo qualifying that you sometimes see in fantasy land. We're going to do it like they do in real life. They don't clear the track for you to qualify. So you got to get out there, deal with traffic, make your strategic decisions, and put down the best lap that you can with all the other competitors out there. Now, granted, 18 cars out there, a little less traffic, Charles, than we saw in the F4 series last season when there were upwards of 40 cars. But on a track this size, traffic still could rear its head here during qualifying. And traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. If you get a draft at the right time here, as we watch Conway blasting down this pit straight, these cars can get a little bit of a tow on that nice long straightaway, can take a couple tenths off and move up in qualifying. And traffic, as I said, though, can also taketh away if somebody holds you up when you got a heater going. So open qualifying, I'm all for it. I love it, and looking forward to seeing how these drivers handle it here this evening.
Yeah, we talked about that as you and I do the F3 coverage on Wednesday nights. Talk about how sometimes you don't necessarily want the draft. You may end up qualifying a little bit over your race pace. But for a track like this, probably not a bad thing, because it's going to be very difficult to make a pass. So if you can get a couple extra positions by finding a good draft out there behind another car, it's going to be hard for those cars behind to get around without really turning up the aggression level, which I think the stewards would probably frown upon.
Track position going to be absolutely critical here, and I'm just going to take a little peek, Charles, into my crystal ball, and I'm going to prophesize that we're going to see some dive bombs into turn one. Speaking of track position, that is about the only reliable place to stick it in. So we're going to see some contested entries there. Could see some cars coming together. Could see some brake lockups right there, and we have seen tire wear be an issue with these F4 cars, more on some tracks than on others. And I'm going to say these little tight, twisty middle section of Summit Point here is going to grind off the front tires of these things, and we could see some people having a hard time getting a crisp turn in and washing out on entry on some corners late in the race if they don't take care of their tires. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see that happening as we were just coming through turn 5, that little downhill run into that 90-degree left-hander where, we talk about it as get a little brake lock up going down in there a little bit hotter than you would want. Maybe start sliding, have to kind of do a little progressive braking there. And then the next thing you know, your front tires don't want to turn. So as we're going to go on board here, with, I believe this is the 77 car, Lloyd Conway. It is indeed just set the fastest lap. So first one through, and he's already surpassed, but we get to run down in here in the turn 1 and makes that corner through. And there is Josh Leslie jumping up to pole position.
Yeah, these initial laps coming in, and don't have a ton of seat time in these cars, Charles, but I have enough to kind of have a feel for the tire situation, and I'm pretty confident in saying that it takes a lap or two for these tires to hit their sweet spot. So those early laps probably going to fall off here pretty quickly as they come around for the second and third time. And these drivers can, Charles, pop in for tires if they choose to do. On some of the longer courses, I'd probably hesitate to do that because you're throwing away your in lap, you're throwing away an out lap and another additional lap to warm the tires. But we're only doing 70-second laps out here, and it's conceivable that we could see people trying fresh rubber on a light fuel load towards the end of the session.
That is a good strategy. I think that's probably a good idea. You could probably get 3 or 4 good laps here, come in around the 10-minute mark, and that Lloyd Conway with a 109.6. So starting to ramp up, and then Leslie immediately jumps back up to the top. So obviously got a couple of quick drivers out there. We're already under the 70-second mark.
Yeah, and every time Conway comes around, you can just imagine the AI crew chief talking in his ear. You set the fastest lap, and then moments later, Leslie takes about a half second out of him. Has happened here on 2 consecutive laps, but plenty of time left. And right now, up top, it is Leslie from Conway, from Greg Meyer, from Clark, from Vase, and those cars packed together pretty well, about 1.3 seconds. And as we go through this qualifying, Charles, this is a track where some 1Xs can kind of sneak up on you. You see the dirt exit there of turn 3 is a place where you can get a wheel off. So there's a couple places where you can get a wheel off in the grass and invalidate your qualifying lap. So these drivers are going to have to approach some of those areas here with caution.
Yeah, turn 3 especially is one of those is really, like I said, really fast left-hander uphill. That gravel trap comes at you hot and fast, and you have to really be careful because it's a compounding problem. You'll get over in the gravel, it slows you down. You've got an X, and you burnt up your momentum, and then also you're bringing gravel on the track. So that's a problem that's going to persist for another lap or two until the cars come through. So you may end up hurting yourself on the next lap as well, as lap times are really starting to come down. We got Swanbeck now under that 110 mark. Greg Meyer just outside of it at 110.06, and you see the times just ever so quickly moving forward and lower.
And I got to say that turn 3 is probably one of the more interesting spots on the track to me. I wouldn't call this track killy, but they have put whoa, and there is a little smooch there. That was Leslie going for a ride that he didn't want to go on. And of course, no damage here. So you see the magic gremlins popping out and slapping the body panels back on that car. But I was going to say about turn 3 is you really kind of have to, it's all about timing, and you really have to commit to that turn in on the entry to turn 3. And if you miss it, the car gets light going right across the apex there. Once you're committed to a line, you can't really correct. And if you miss it, very easy to go off on the sand right there. And some people are just going to kind of be mixing that into their normal race laps as long as they don't go over the penalty mark, I think. So we're going to see a lot of dust flying in that area of the track.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's there, and it's that final corner where you just kind of carry too much speed through and you just drift out into it, and then just lose all your momentum down the front straight. Yeah, we've seen a couple issues already, JR, of the cars coming out of turn 9, maybe misjudging how much room they've got on the outside of another car and then making wheel-to-wheel contact. So it's kind of interesting. Wasn't expecting to see that much activity already coming out of turn 9, but that looks like it may potentially be a problem tonight.
Yeah, 9 very tricky, and 9 is going to be a turn, Charles, that I think is going to expose the drivers who may not have as much practice time as the other competitors, because it's another very tricky one. You've got to be very precise on turn in to keep your speed up there, put the power down, and people who haven't got that completely dialed in are going to be caught very quickly from behind right there, and that may be causing some of the conflicts that you're mentioning. 6 minutes into qualifying, it is still Leslie from Conway. Now, Jose Navas has put in a heater. He's up in the 109s. Van Wagner as well, and Swanback and Chia. So we've got our top 6 drivers underneath that 110 barrier. Meyer, Glasser, and Duvall sniffing around there. Very likely that they'll be able to pinch off a couple tenths and get into the 109. So a pretty competitive looking field out here. I've got the top 7 cars all within 1 second. And as usual, we're going to be in for a good night of racing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Already ramping up. It looks like it's going to be fun tonight. We got, obviously, there's a little bit of some gap in maybe practice time or experience at this track particularly. So that'll be one of those issues that we'll have to watch and deal with. We see cars off the track there coming through 10. I saw somebody just basically give a tow back. I think that was Leslie that has towed back to the pits. So he'll go in and he'll get some new tires, but that'll refuel his car unless he's turned off. So we'll keep an eye on that. As Meyer is now up to P6. 109.8, so now we've got another car to jump into the 109. So that's 8 total now with Glasser also there at a 109.9. And there's Duval now breaking the 110 barrier.
That's some pretty good times going up right there. And I'm sorry, Leslie took a tow. Is he upside down?
I didn't see him upside down. I just saw somebody that was over in the gravel trap outside of turn 10. And just as we caught him in the camera shot, it blinked back, and so like it's something very similar to that, and it looked like it just blinked out of existence and back to the. And I saw Leslie with the spit light on. So
okay, yeah, very interesting. Well, and the reason that stand, there's Swanbeck drifting the night away through the kitty litter there out of turn 10. And just the reason I asked you about it was that, as you said, if you take a tow, you get your fuel load back. So Leslie not doing himself any favors there, even though he is sitting at the top of the standings right now. He's only got 2/10 back to Conway, and Conway is going to be the beneficiary of a lighter fuel load the deeper we get into this session, a little over halfway through right now. And there is Conway now in that 77, and very interesting there if Leslie did take a tow, and he may end up kicking himself for that. But of course, he's probably going to remain on the front row. Charles, looks like the next driver down is about 4/10 back. That's Navis and Van Wagner 4/10 as well. But, and here is the but, I told you before that traffic giveth and traffic taketh away, and it is more than conceivable that you could get a lucky draft right here on this pit straight and end up picking up a couple tenths and turning this whole qualifying session upside down. Any of the top 10 drivers could do that at this point.
Yeah, indeed, and I'm starting to see some people take it to the pits probably for fresh tires, as I'm seeing lots and lots of yellow sectors out there, meaning that they're not matching their personal best for that sector. As we see Leslie now with the purple sector coming out back to the track, and then I think that's him immediately going wide in turn 10. So the only one I saw that had a green, there's Duval. I saw Hyde also had a green first sector, Duval green second, Cotcher's green second. So it looks like we are having some people coming in, getting some fresh rubber for a couple more hot laps before qualifying is over.
Yeah, and we will take a look at that. And man, oh man, I'm having some kind of PTSD, Charles, from watching people go into the kitty litter there in turn 10. It's so critical, and it looks so easy, and it shouldn't be hard to get it dialed, especially in these cars. You're not going, like 200 miles an hour or anything, but so hard to get that corner right. Just a little nibble on that inside curb is enough to upset these F4 cars, lose grip, and end up out there in the kitty litter. And if you're new to iRacing world, Summit Point is one of those free tracks where when you first start driving road cars, you're driving Miatas at Summit Point and a couple other places, and you get so tired of it by the time you get out of rookie class that you never want to see it again. But yeah, it's definitely a lot more challenging than it looks, and I think these cars are probably going to be pretty well suited to this circuit.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is a good platform for this circuit. It feels like the speed that the F4 has and the handling it has is a good match for the Summit Point, the full circuit. So it's, but once again, it is still a little tight. It's tighter, I guess, by and large than say Mid Ohio from last week. A little more racing room at Mid Ohio, and a little more open. It feels bigger, whether it's bigger or not. It feels bigger than the track here. So as we see somebody taking that was Clark there on the curb, which is not necessarily the preferred line through that corner. I think that was turn 4. So we want to reset that and get a little better run through there this time by.
Yeah, you had me going there for a second, Charles. When you started saying tighter than, I was certain that a colorful metaphor was going to follow, but maybe next time. It is still Leslie from Conway, from Navis, from Van Wagner, from Swanbeck up front, and those kind of are the usual suspects at the pointy end of 2025 season 3 here on Sim Racers Group F4. So not a lot of surprises up front. We got the top 10 within 1 second, then it drops off a little bit with Guyton Clark, Hagan, got Embriette, Hyde, Jim Cotcher, Nathan, and Pham there bringing up the rear. So 20-minute sprint, possible that traffic could play a role here when the race gets underway, but still qualifying, of course. About 2 minutes left. And remember, folks, if you're just joining us, qualifying will not end abruptly when that 15-minute timer runs out. If you cross start finish before the numbers hit 15 straight across, you get to finish whatever lap you're on. So very likely the session will be 15 and change, 16 even, as the final drivers do their best to put down their last laps. And we've seen, Charles, a couple of people get motivated by that extra lap and put down some very fast laps on that last lap. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Pretty interesting, though.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, that at least, we're at a track where, the qualifying overtime is only going to be about a minute and a half or so. So everybody should be back to the start finish line by then, before iRacing decides to jump over to the race session. But yeah, we could see it, but I'm just kind of looking out there that not a lot of fast sectors going on. Looks like everybody's used up what they had, and so we're gonna just kind of run out the clock here and get ready to go racing. But we've had we're up to the top 10 within that 109 bracket, so 0.8 of a second separating the top P1 and P10. So that's going to make for some pretty good racing, especially on this first lap as they go down into turn one. And I hope I don't get a repeat of the Formula Fords from this weekend there, where it was 4 wide going into turn one. It didn't work for them, and I don't think it'll work for these drivers either.
Yeah, and they only have 20 minutes, Charles, and we do see some pretty aggressive driving on some of these starts. So I'm not sure if you're going to get your wish that our opening turn one is going to be clean and it's going to be off a standing start with cold tires as well. So don't want to curse the whole proceeding, but it is what it is. So speaking of tires, it looks like Novice and Van Wagner are only customers who went in for a spare set of tires, not counting Josh Leslie, who may have taken a tow in that session. But I will say that for Van Wagner, it did pay off for him. He got his fast lap of 109.558 on that second set of rubber. So here we go, qualifying winding down. There's a few cars left. You see our track map there, and it is still Leslie from Conway, from Novice, from Van Wagner, from Swanbeck, and we're going to take a ride here with Swanbeck as he navigates. You see that little wiggle there? Oh, that turn 10, diabolical, as you see him push that F4 car through there. And what did he manage there? He's about 5/10 off of his best there. So running out of opportunities here. We'll take a look at Embriette Hyde there in the 93. She just needs a couple of tenths. She could move up significantly from that P14. Oh, I still saw some blades of grass flying up there, though. That is not going to help her. And no help there for Embriette. That's a 112.1. Somehow did not get an off track there. I definitely saw a wheel in the grass, but that looks like it is going to conclude qualifying, and we will get our 20-minute sprint race underway here in just a moment. And again, if you're just joining us, the league organizer here, Sim Racers Group, actually is a brick and mortar facility on the east side of San Jose, California. If you're in the Bay Area, you might want to stick your head in there. They've got 10 sim rigs lined up in there. So many of these drivers you're seeing on the track tonight, of course, many of them are all over the world, as is normally the case in iRacing, but some of them are shoulder to shoulder in the SRG facility there in San Jose. And that just sounds like a blast to me, Charles.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And here is our starting lineup.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and give you that grid. So it is going to be Josh Leslie in pole, lined up to Lloyd Conway, frequent flyers together. So those two spend a lot of time around each other. They are accustomed to that. And then it's going to be Novice next to Van Wagner, Swanbeck next to Adam Duvall in row 3, then Meyer next to Ryan Chia, Vase next to Glasser, and Jacob Guyton next to Dan Clark in 11 and 12. That will take us to Hagen next to Ambriette Hyde, who we saw there at the end of that qualifying session. Then it's Nathan next to Jim Cotcher, Teddy Pham next to, looks like Charles is out there doing some practice laps earlier.
When you get called an hour before the broadcast to fill in, you forget to do things like click spectate.
So I guess Charles is not going to be taking the grid. No. And Cotcher, Hun, and Teddy Pham looks like Pham is lining up. So the last 3 cars on my list there are probably not going to grid, but there is Leslie there right in the center of your screen in that 55 car. He will have the inside entry into turn 1. And as I said before, folks, no traction control, no ABS, no electronic nannies of any kind on these cars. And they're going to have to get these things moving off the line on cold tires without traction control. That is going to be their first job here tonight. And their second job is going to be to take a breath. And man, it is a cliche, but it's so true, Charles. You can't win the race on the first corner, but you sure can lose it.
You absolutely sure can lose as we're waiting for, I think everybody's on the grid now, except for the 2 guys that aren't out there, which is that's going to roll this up to the end of the 2-minute gridding time. So we'll have to wait for that as we'll wait for a green flag. Oh, lights are up. We're about to go.
Yeah, and here come your lights, and we are about to get week 4 underway of SRG F4 racing at Summer Point, and we are green. Leslie gets off well. So does Conway, though. Conway a nose ahead. Is Conway going to have a shot around the outside here? And will Leslie let him go or try to contest that entry on cold tires? This could be a critical moment in this race. Side by side into turn 1, and Leslie is going to push it through. Conway backing out of that. It is Leslie from Conway. Swanbeck moves up 2. Meyer moves up 3. So Navis, Van Wagner, and Duvall getting a horrid start there at Summit Point in a track where qualifying was everything. Track position was everything. And a couple drivers throwing away their hard work and qualifying before turn 1.
Yeah, it looks like Navis kind of got rooted out of the turn 1 exit there. But I think by Swanbeck, it was like there might have been a little bit of contact. Oh, as we see 2 cars in the wall, there's definitely contact there.
Yeah, that looks like Pham and Jim Cotcher maybe coming together. Couldn't really see where that was, but a hard impact. But as I said, folks, this is the developmental league with an emphasis on seat time, so they're not going to have to take a tow. Damage is off. They will be back underway and running here in short order. Oh, and there's a little sniffery going on there. That's Dan Clark sniffing around behind Guyton on the approach to turn 10, and Clark getting a much better exit there is going to have a run and that outside entry into turn 1. And my goodness, the outside move here, Charles, could play a big role in this race. We're seeing it often and early here. Oh, and watching out a little bit. Oh my goodness, that was ouch. He almost had it. You saw him lock that right front brake as he was trying to trail brake deep into that corner, and that did not work out the way he was hoping.
No, absolutely not. He had to go to run on the outside, but just couldn't hold the car on the outside line there in turn 1. Lost the rear bit, had to catch it up. Maybe got a little contact from behind by one of the trailing cars as they're still fighting side by side through turn 5 and 6.
Yeah, nice move by Vase there around the outside. So Vase looking to improve his lot in life. He qualified in P9, lost 2, and he wants those 2 back. That's going to be Guyton and Glasser. And meanwhile, up front, it is, hang on, we're going to take we're going to take a ride with Van Wagner, who is going to send Meyer for a brutal ride out of turn 10 through the kitty litter and up into the barrier. And oh my goodness, I don't think Meyer's going to be happy about that. It's going to put Van Wagner up into P5, and we'll take another look here. And again, this diabolical turn 10, and the Taco Bell car taking a run for the border, over the fence, and into the netherworld. That's going to put him back in the pits, and my goodness, Meyer, that is no bueno. And we'll see the view back from Meyer, and yeah, he was a little slow there, and I'm not sure that gave Van Wagner a pass to drive through him there, Charles.
I wouldn't think so. Yeah, he was a little slow coming out of 10. Van Wagner had a really good run, and yeah, that Taco Bell car actually didn't make it across the border. So out of the race area, and so it's an immediate tow back to the pit stop or back to the pit lane, and so he'll get his car back, and we'll see if he comes back out and continues or not.
Yeah, and there was a look at Leslie and Conway hanging on to Leslie here, which he kind of needs to do. He doesn't want Leslie to drive away here. There are a couple of straightaways, and where there's a straight, you want to hang with the person in front of you so that you don't lose them. And the draft, very good at making up for small errors, and this is kind of a replay of Mid-Ohio, Charles. We had Conway kind of pressing Leslie throughout that race, might have pressed him into the mistake that eventually cost Leslie the race and handed the win to Conway. But these two have definitely been the stars so far this season, and they are carrying that billing right now in this short and twisty course at Summit Point.
Yeah, they really are having a good run. We did see Meyer get back on the track and was very, very sportsmanlike, stayed over to the right-hand side out of the way as the leaders came through. We're back on board here with Vase. He's running in P8, and he's got, looks like Glasser and Guyton right behind him, and they're battling hard there in the mid-pack, and so CV, and we'll catch Guyton here taking it around the outside of 10. Makes a nice move. That looks like that other car, the Glasser car, may be off the pace just a bit, as I think Dan Clark's going to catch him as well and make the move as well and get by and take over that 10.
Yeah, the defending car there completely diving out of the way, wanted nothing to do with that. And here we are back up front, taking a look at Conway. And now is Van Wagner looking ahead at Navis. And look at that gap. He's got that down to 0.2 now. Ride with him for a second. And this is that difficult downhill braking zone that Charles was talking to you about before. You see the heavy patch right there. There's a lot of patches on this track, actually. And let's just stay with Van Wagner here so the folks can see this difficult section. This is the 9 and 10 I'm talking about. You got to commit, you got to floor it, and use all the exit there. Van Wagner maybe leaving a little bit on the table there, being careful through turn 9, and here comes turn 10. And we'll watch that interval. 0.6 currently should be enough to get him a tow. And I saw some dirt flying there. Somebody go off right there, potentially. And meanwhile, up front, Conway has managed to sneak it through. Speaking of the draft, gets that outside entry to work. And now it is Conway taking over the lead from Leslie. It's Conway from Leslie from Swanbeck. And Swanbeck, again, has Navis not really all over him, but still hanging within less than a second, and this top group kind of driving off. They've dropped Van Wagner to the tune of a second and a half. Duvall second and a half behind him, and yeah, that I did see a puff of dirt there. That was Leslie going wide there at a turn 10, and nothing will slow these F4 cars down quicker than a trip through the kitty litter. You saw it there, completely compromised. Leslie's exit from turn 10 allowed Conway through, and now Conway leading Leslie.
Yep, absolutely. As we work our way down here into turn 5, you see him just nice dive to the inside. That was well held. It was a great move. Exactly how you're going to make the pass there. That's the other kind of hidden passing position into turn 5, but you have to be brave and you have to make sure you don't lock it up as Leslie retakes the lead. Conway still really right on his tail, and they're going to battle again down into turn 1.
What an epic move by Leslie there, and brave is an understatement right there, storming downhill in these F4 cars, going pretty fast right there, I gotta say. And now is Conway gonna try it there? Conway sticks his nose inside of turn 3. I don't think we've seen a side-by-side entry there yet, but as the red mist flows, we may see it later in the race. And here we are on that approach to the kind of lower speed turn 5 where Leslie stuck it through last time. And there's Navis and Swanbeck, and look at that is Vase trying to get by Chia and makes it happen. Oh my goodness. And is that the side-by-side entry that I said we hadn't seen yet? No, that was through turn 4. But Guyton looking racy here, and let's see, that's going to put him up 3. So Guyton making things happen here on a notoriously difficult to pass track. He's moved up 3 positions all the way up into P8. So good drive by him so far.
Great drive by him so far. That was a fantastic pass. And yeah, you don't normally see, I was going to say, you don't normally see side by side through turn 3 because it's so dangerous. You really don't see it through 4 as the 4 car takes us deep to the inside on Swanbeck. That's novice. And trying to make that move to the inside really kind of slowed your momentum down on that inside line. So probably the outside line is probably the better line to take to try and make a move. Unless that car on the outside gives you plenty of room to make the apex and work your way around the corner. But good attempt by Novice, and he's not done yet. Looks like he's got Swanbeck in his sights and lined up to make a move here soon.
That was wild stuff. Shades of Sebastian Vettel there as Swanbeck squeezing Novice hard to the inside, compromised both of their lines and entries through turn 1, and Swanbeck hanging on to that position. But he's got to be driving his mirrors a little bit right now, knowing that his defense there was not enough to deter Novice. Just doesn't care. And now Novice has Van Wagner peeking inside of him in turn 10. And so these 3 getting racy here, probably about a second and a half covering all 3 of those cars. And meanwhile, up front, Leslie driving away a little bit here. Charles, looks like he's extended his interval back to Conway to a full second. And look at the gap from Conway to Swanbeck as Leslie and Conway drive away is almost 5 seconds back to P3.
Yeah, I was going to say it was kind of odd that I see the 2 lead cars battling through corners like that and the cars behind not make up the gap, but they were in their own battle. So that was the reason. But yeah, maybe I'm going to say Conway might have made a mistake somewhere, and that's caused this gap of a second. Obviously, we probably wouldn't be able to go find it on the replays. We see the 11 car move out of the way, very sportsmanlike by Teddy Pham there to just clear and let those guys work their way through. And so Conway looks like he's back on it, though. That held up Leslie just a bit. So got him about 3/10. And now the gap's starting to come back down. We'll see if Conway can make a charge and bring this battle back to 4.
Yeah, and our producer Marty showing you those intervals there, and Conway dropped between 3 and 4 tenths in 2 different sectors there. So Conway suddenly off the pace and may have overheated his tires. This does happen on this tire model. If you flog the car too hard, you have to kind of breathe a little bit, let the tire temperature come back down, and let the grip come back to you. But that gap, which had been over a second, Conway has reeled them right back in. 4 tenths now, and that's that turn 3 area. I told you that some cars were going to be using the kitty litter as part of their racing line, and you see it right there. You see it again with Swanbeck, and Swanbeck's got a little train formed behind him. That's Novice and Van Wagner looking to chase him down. So some pretty good racing going on up in the front of this field in the top 5. Oh my goodness. Again, somebody going evasive there. And who was that we lost? Was that a back marker maybe? Potentially causing a disaster among the leaders.
Yeah, and you still see this 4 car here, and then Von Wagner and Novice still battling through 8 and 9. I think that was Pham that was off in the corner there, and so these guys are still fighting hard. So we've got battles all up and down here. So now it's a 3-car battle. Swanbeck has been able to kind of get away just a little bit, but not too much. So you've got a 3-car battle back there for the final step on the podium, as the 2 guys up front have closed it now within a half second. As you see the battle through turn 1, and that is 6 car on the outside. That's Novice on the inside. They'll swap over, and Swanbeck able to hold on to that position for another corner or 2.
Wow, that was great work by Van Wagner and great camera work by our producer Marty Czekala there. As you saw, Novice go a little bit wide there out of turn 10, got a little bit in the kitty litter. Novice very clean, good-looking exit, and manages to make that draft go to work for him and kind of win the side-by-side entry into turn 1. So great fighting here in the top 10. It looks like we got Chia chasing down Duvall and Conway. Still has that gap about 5 tenths ahead of him with a little over 7 minutes remaining. And here's a look at Dan Clark and Cy Nathan, those 2 fighting over P13. And, that's another great thing about this league, Charles. These guys are competing no matter where the grid that they are in. Some of these guys are fighting for P13 the way they would be fighting for P1 on the last lap, and it's really great to see.
Yeah, it really is. And I think Dan Clark took that position from St. Nathan's. We're on here with Michael Hune, is working his way through 5 and just around and into the barrier nose first. That car will reset itself and he can continue on. But yeah, that's one of those, that's one you expect to see there in 5 is just carrying too much speed and it just carries you across the track. We see Teddy Pham doing almost the same thing and then backs up to get off the track and out of the way. I did see a car on the opposite side there get beached. So luckily that was good from Pham. He just kind of like I said, just moved out of the way, let the racers work their way through, waited for the track to clear before he got back out there.
Oof, and that was quite a hit into the barrier by Michael. And when he nosed in right there, he went,
yeah.
Somebody stopped me. So up front, there's Leslie and Conway still, and Leslie is maintaining that gap pretty well. It's got up to about 0.7. We saw Conway under 0.5 there after the gap had risen to over a second. Conway reeled them back in, but hasn't reeled them back in enough. And Conway Leslie doing pretty well here. His last lap, a 109.4, although Conway currently the fast lapper and the only driver in the 108s has hit a 108.9. And there is a little bobble by Leslie. Conway now all over him, got that gap down to 0.3 now. And shades of Mid-Ohio, and I know that's going through Leslie's mind right now as he's managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory there. And here we come storming down the hill into that all-important turn 10. We'll see both drivers can get a good exit. Both of them fairly conservative there, not wanting to make a mistake, but Conway is going to have the draft, is going to have a run. Watch that interval drop. It's under 0.1 now. Conway is going to try the outside here. He's had mixed results. We'll see what happens. And some back markers are going to get involved as well. And is one of these drivers going to be able to scrape off their competitor on a back marker? Completely valid strategy. These guys are racing too. They'll do their best to get out of the way. But you can certainly use them, Charles, as a moving pick as we ride with Conway looking forward at Leslie. Some great camera work here as the leaders come up on traffic.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what Leslie did. He just makes that dive down. Oh! There's a move by Conway. Oh, and we lost the car there. I think that was Jim Cotcher. The 22 car was in there. Oh, and 77 in the wall as well.
And Conway stuffing it down the inside of turn 5. Incredible. Gets that pass done and immediately maybe pays the consequences for overheating those tires and goes off in the grass. And this one could be over. Just a little bobble there, and we'll get a replay of that for you. But look at that gap now between Leslie and Conway, 3.5 seconds. Here's that epic move there by Conway. Oh, and he had a little help by Josh Leslie there, and oof, that is a tough one. Looked like a racing incident to me. You owe space. I don't know. I'm not sure how the drivers are going to feel about that. It seemed to me like Conway turned into him a little bit there. I'm going to mark it down as a racing incident, but critical turn of events in this race.
Yeah, I'm going to mark it down as I'm glad I'm not a steward. Because I would not want to make the decision on this. That was very close, and it all started back with those back markers that you mentioned. JR is they were just working their way down, and they were trying to clear. Conway got held up a little bit going into 1, just tried not to make the move, but he thought he had an opportunity going into 5. Took it in very, very deep on the inside. A little bit of contact between the 2 lead cars, and more contact as well coming through 6. And you saw the spin by Conway up against the wall after the contact. And that's basically separated the cars by 3 seconds, but that's closing down. So I'm wondering if Leslie is maybe backed off a bit as maybe some sportsmanship, or maybe he's just behind some back markers and is trying to clear them and just can't quite get it done yet.
Well, and Leslie had an unforced error running in P1 that cost him last week at Mid-Ohio. He does not want to repeat that, but my goodness, Charles, that was an epic ballsy move by Conway, completely clean, gets it done. And it's a shame that ended with contact in the subsequent corner the way it did. I would have liked to see those guys continue battling down the stretch. And I'm going to take a replay here at Greg Meyer. And Meyer spent a lot of time in the grass on this one. As I said, folks, this is a very difficult track that has a lot of nuances, requires a lot of practice. And if you show up here not ready for it, you are going to be exposed. And Leslie now with about 90 seconds remaining in this one. This likely the penultimate lap right here. The gap back to Conway, 3.7. Then another significant gap back to P3 Van Wagner. That's 5.5 seconds. Then a 4-second gap back to Duvall. So really the action right now is that train. Duvall from Novice, from Chia for P4. And we will take a look at that when we get a second. And there's Conway. He just kind of motoring at this point. He is on a track day and just wants to keep it clean and get the car across the line for that podium.
Yep. Yeah, as we see the battle here between Duvall and Novice coming down the front straight. Duvall sitting there on the left-hand side of your screen, taking the inside line through, and just a little too much speed through the corner. It looks like Novice had a good run, crossed him over on the inside. As we're going to move on board back to the lead car of Josh Leslie, working his way around. Looks like we're going to have the white flag coming up as we get around here just inside of the 20-minute mark, so they'll have one more lap around the track.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at Barney, and you see that white flag coming out on the starter stand. So Leslie just needs to take a breath here, keep it clean, and my goodness, the top 4 cars, really, that's all they have to do. Huge gaps behind them. All they got to do is get it around the track and keep it clean. And it's right now it's Leslie from Conway, from Van Wagner, and barring the ridiculous or the sublime, that is going to be your podium. Although Novice still has a crack at Duvall, and I got to say, Novice has not been shy so far. Nope. And I think if Novice sees a sliver of daylight, he's going to be stuffing that F4 car down there. So we'll take a look at them. That is Duvall and the lucky number 13 car with Novice all over him. And will we see Novice try to stick it in down here at the bottom of the hill into turn 5? Seen a couple of successful moves there, but it looks like only Conway really was willing to roll the dice on that one. And Leslie actually did it to each other. Very tough move, and that gets you the Summit Point merit badge for sure. And here comes Josh Leslie around turn 10, coming down the pit straight, and he is not going to be denied this time. He put the loss at Mid-Ohio behind him and put Lloyd Conway behind him. There is likely, Charles, I got to say that there's not live officiating, but there are protests in this league, and I would imagine that they may be taking a look at that contact between Leslie and Conway. But at least for the time being, it is a Leslie from Conway from Van Wagner. Duvall hangs on to P4 after leading Novice and Chia around Summit Point like a parade for at least half of that race. Some good racing taking part in that part of the grid. Here comes Hagen. He's going to roll across, taking P10, rounding out your top 10. Embriette Hyde there coming across behind Hagen as our last few competitors come across. So my goodness, I gotta say, Charles, that was pretty eventful. As we said, it's pretty difficult to get passing done here at Summit Point, and these drivers knew where to make the attempts. Saw some great outside moves into turn 1 and a couple of really epic moves down into turn 5.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as you said, somebody's inbox is going to be full after the race, after everybody gets out of their sim. So there'll be some officiating to be done. But here's your race results: Josh Leslie taking the win over Lloyd Conway, finishing second, 3.5 seconds behind. Aaron Van Wagner finishing third. Adam Duvall fourth. Jose Novice finishing in fifth. Ryan Chia finishes in sixth. Jacob Guyton finished in seventh. Sarah Vase finishing in eighth. Dan Swanbeck in ninth. Tyler Hagen rounds out your top 10. Embriette Hyde in 11th. King Glasser in 12th. Dan Clark 13th. Sal Nathan in 14th, Michael Huon in 15th, Greg Meyer finishing in 16th, Jim Cotcher 17th, Teddy Pham finishing in 18th, and that is your, I believe that is your grid, and then a couple guys down there. Sorry, that's Jim Cotcher finishing in 17th. Jason and I did not race, so there's your finishing results. Good race, Summit Point race. So you kind of got some things that you would expect to see from Summit Point, but still some good battles on track. Some really some audacious moves that were made, and then some that were attempted.
Yeah, for sure. And looks like taking a peek out in the green room, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our P4 finisher, Adam Duvall. And Adam, hell of a drive out there today at Summit Point. And I'm going to give you the cleanest rear bumper award for that 20-minute race, because you had Novice polishing that thing pretty much nonstop throughout that race. So how was it? You had Novice and Chia actually both hounding you. So how was it trying to deal with this tricky track with all constant pressure from behind while taking care of your tires and hanging onto that P4?
Well, I knew I wasn't going to be that quick here, just looking at the practice times. So I was like, okay, let's just be smart this whole time. And so I would push to a pace, and then somebody would get close. I'd push a little more, careful not to overdo it. And I just kind of tried to keep that up. And Jose's quick. I was worried about him at the end making those dive bombs, but I was giving it extra time, so I had extra reaction time and everything. So that was a fun race.
Yeah, well, very, very well-managed race, Adam. And looking at the timing sheet, it looks like Novice did have about 2/10 on you in terms of a fastest lap. But it's one thing to catch that NASA-branded F4 car spaceship, and it's another thing entirely to get by it. So really well done. Some great fighting, and you should enjoy the broadcast later. You got to a decent amount of airtime leading that little trade around the course. So. Let's see, what are we looking at next week? Mosport. So I had a couple of tight, windy courses, and we're going to let these cars off the leash a little bit up in Canada. So you got any thoughts to share with us about heading up to Mosport?
I just learned it pretty recently, but it's a fun track already, so I'm excited. It's going to be a DRS train with mistakes causing places, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And these little mini Formula cars do really well on tracks like that, where they get to kind of take advantage of the downforce and take advantage of the grip. So that should be a fantastic race. And we'll look forward to seeing you out there next week. As we wrap it up, is there anyone you would like to shout out or give thanks to today?
We'll see you guys tomorrow for the Wednesday. Let's go, Kalen. He's my teammate.
Oh, yeah, right on. Okay. All right, so shout out to Kalen and Adam. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, man.
All right, and let's see. It looks like we also have Dan S, and I'm going to presume that Dan S is Dan Swanbeck. Dan, track position, so critical at this track. You put in a pretty good performance in qualifying, ended up in P5 and had some trouble getting off the line and ended up crossing the line in 9th. So what happened on the start, and what were you able to do to try to fight your way back?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I felt like I got a pretty good start. I think I got up into 3rd on the first lap there. Was running pretty consistently, really. I couldn't quite hang on to the top 2 cars. Was, maintaining the gap fairly well, but got some pressure from behind during the race. And, I had to kind of defend that, fight that off. And then, unfortunately, I collected a car that had spun. I didn't have good visibility. I don't blame him. He probably didn't know which way he was facing, but unfortunately I got collected there, and that put me back to 9th, and I just really couldn't dig out of that position, unfortunately.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, my apologies. There's a couple of cars that struggled off the start and actually you were one of the ones who benefited from that, jumping up into P3. So, yeah, tough result there though, but good job in keeping your head down and keeping driving and get some good pace out there and still finished in the top 10. So good work there. As we look forward, looks like we're heading up to Canada to Mosport next week. Any thoughts about how that track is going to be in these cars?
I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. These cars are great for drafting in these long, high-speed corners. Tracks that have slow corners aren't actually so slow in these. I think it should race well. Unlike this track, so tight, I think we can open it up a little bit more and have some good battles.
Yeah, these F4 cars do great when you let them off the leash, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing what they can do up in Canada. So as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Jason, obviously, for running this program here. I'm one of the drivers in-house and can't speak enough to what a great environment this is, how great the equipment is. For me personally, it changed my view of sim racing to come in and experience not only top-level equipment, but someone that's so supportive and makes such an immersive culture here. So thanks to Jason for that. I also want to shout out to my mom and dad who always watch the races regardless of where I finish. So I appreciate the support.
Nice. All right. Well, very good. And thank you so much, Dan. And we'll see you next week in Canada.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
All righty. And it looks like Charles might have disconnected, but we'll go ahead and bring in Jacob Guyton. And Jacob, looks like you put in a pretty good drive today. You managed to move up out of P11 deep into the top 10, finishing in 7th. So how did your race go today?
I thought it went pretty well. Didn't qualify as best as I thought I could, but racing against Sarab was super, super fun. Just played it safe, and yeah, I ended up getting some results out of it.
Yeah, well, really well done. And so what was your approach? Did you have a strategy in terms of making overtakes happen? Did you have a couple corners that you liked that you wanted to try during the race? And did you get to put any of those to use while you were making your way up the field?
Honestly, Summit is not one of my favorite tracks. I didn't put a whole lot of practice in. So like I said, just like play it safe and wait for an opportunity whenever it came up to me, is kind of how I played it.
Well, it's you and me are on the same page. I am not Michael Rolfe or even Willie Schumacher, but I can be consistent. And I like to just kind of let it come to me. And it sounds like you were able to make that happen to the tune of a gain of 4 positions. So very well driven, almost the hard charger, actually. Certainly the hard charger among the top 10 finishers. So great drive. And thanks so much for stopping by and chatting with us. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to this evening?
Yeah, thank you guys for putting on an amazing broadcast. Thank you for everyone at SRG, Jason, Tyler, and all the other racers for just having a great community to be a part of. And thank you to my girlfriend, Macy, for supporting me in my hobbies.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks again, Marty, and we will see you next week at Mosport.
All right, see you then.
Okay. Uh-oh. All right. Give me one moment here. We'll go ahead and bring in Josh Leslie. And Charles, are you with us? Not hearing Charles. So the internet demons are playing hell with us right now. Josh, very good drive today. I know that you had to have Mid-Ohio on your mind as you had Conway sniffing around behind. So how did that race go from your perspective? And Josh not there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm not clear if we are on or not, but I'll go ahead and talk about what is coming up next on upcoming on SMB tomorrow night. We stay with Sim Racers Group for week 4 of Formula 3 competition at Sebring, and that is going to be fantastic. You will not want to miss that. Charles and I will be back for that one on Saturday. Weekend Warriors will have Formula V's at Cadwell Park, and then Ron's Race Nights. We'll see the iRacing official top split action with Legends cars at Knockhill, speaking of yard sales. And on Sunday, we'll kick off with a Weekend Warriors double feature with Spec Racer Fords throwing down at Lime Rock and Formula Fords battling at Watkins Glen. Later in the evening, the XSLR series will return with GT3 action from Phillip Island. And 1 week from today, as you heard us discussing, we'll be back here with F4s at Mosport. That is going to be awesome. And I want to also mention the special event coming up on July 26th. We are having a 3-hour endurance race. That's going to be LMP3 and GT3 cars with cash prizes. So thank you so much for joining us, folks. I am JR Gregory. On behalf of myself, my partner, Charles Shell, our producer, Marty Czekala, and everyone here at SMB. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are, and hang on, baby. The weekend's coming.